Well, good morning, guys. Norona here, and I've taken a day off riding to bring you a video that I think is really important, especially as we get up to spring check, and for those who are looking at a new machine and even a used machine that you're, or a machine that you might pick up from the dealer that's a non-current, to make your best choice that's going to work the best for you when we're talking about price, what you need, all those different things. And so we've got the 2020 Expert here, which is an amazing machine, as well as the 2020.5 Turbo, and you've seen a lot of interviews that I've done with riders. Of course, there's tons online. You can talk to your local dealer, people who've demoed them, and I encourage you to do that in talking about this sled. And I think that's really important when we're making choices now, because we're making choices based on not a lot of times riding them for a long time, and also there is a significant cost involved, so we want to make sure you get the best sled for you and your terrain and what you like doing. So we're going to go through all those things today, starting with, we'll talk a little bit about the 2020 Expert and what it means now from the sort of G4 chassis to the Expert, the things that make it better, yeah, I think we should just get started. Well, I can't think of a better place to start than the 2020 Expert. Now, just before we get started, guys, you know, these are always my opinions. I'm very lucky because I get to ride the sleds quite a bit ahead of time, and as our whole team does. And, you know, people will always say we're paid to say certain things, but the reality is all we have is our reputation. And what we're really lucky is we get to work with engineers, we get to work with people designing the products and accessories, and then we get to ride them, and then we get to forge our own opinion. So really, when I look at something, I look at the same way that Skidoo looks at it. When they add something to a snowmobile, it has to help someone at the very bottom, i.e. a beginner. It just has to. And then it has to, that will trickle effect all the way up to top riders. Will always benefit from the little things that people don't think make a big difference, but they do make a big difference when you compare and go back and forth. And a lot of people don't get the time, or take the time, or even get the opportunity to ride a 2020 Expert and then ride it against a 17 or an 18 G4 and see the subtle differences in the spindles and the ski rubbers and all that type of thing, where we often get the chance to do that and we take the time. Or I might ride your sled and when you hop on this, and so I go kind of backwards, even though it's a great machine still, and I see the little subtle differences, and they make a big difference. So that's where this comes from, is to basically let you know. It's not to convince you to buy a turbo, to buy an Expert package. It's not to say that you can't have fun on an simple SP with a long tunnel. You can still go out and have tons of fun. They're an awesome machine. But it really is about balancing for those people who want to get those extra bits, because one of the cool things now is from an SP to an X model to an X model with Expert package, and right up to the next to the Turbo, is the cost that you're paying for the things that you get are about a third of what they would cost you. So yes, the cost goes up, but you are getting a lot more value for that. So it isn't to convince you, it's to make you, allow you to decide, are those changes going to benefit myself or the rider that's choosing, and are they worth it to go up a level or stay at that level? And only you can decide that. That's really important. Talking with your dealer, going in and looking, and then asking questions. If you have any questions, by all means, always send them to any one of us. A recent question on a guy who's riding his turbo up at 10,000 feet, I was able to give him a little bit of feedback, but I just can't give him the feedback that is going to actually help him. So I sent him to Jeremy Mercier, who's riding at 10,000 and above. Jeremy was chimed right in and got the guy sorted out. So it's those types of things that our team is all about. It's about getting out and having fun. That's the bottom line, and then helping people that might not know or might need a little bit of help on knowing different things to create that opportunity so they can be out having more fun. So having said that, when we talk about the Expert, I remember when we were riding it going, wow, this is amazing, and then people saying, oh, it's not going to make that much difference. And in the, you know, over the year of riding this sled, I've had the chance to jump on, you know, 19s and 18s and 17s. Just the other day, I had a friend who had a 17, rode the Turbo, and I was like, wow, what an amazing difference now the new, the spindles and the ski rubber make on this sled. And he noticed it right away, and I noticed it going back to his his machine that it didn't turn as nicely. It wasn't as easy to turn, and wasn't as precise going where I wanted to go. So when we talk about the Expert, that is one of the biggest changes that we've noticed in the front end. And then the other change is basically the short tunnel, and this has really changed everything. From the evacuation of snow, you feel more power. It's lighter feeling, everything, and it basically rides almost one size down. So you know, a 65 rides like a 54, and a 54 rides like a 46. But you still get that flotation when you get out on those deep days. And you know, personally for me, I live in Squamish Whistler, so where I ride, it's quite deep all the time. If it's not super deep, I love to sled ski as well. So you know that from seeing all my videos, and that's why I do both those, because I'm out pretty much every day, either sledding if it's deep or skiing if it's not. And I can't say enough good things about this machine, and nor can anybody who ordered an Expert. You know, we sold a lot of them over regular summits, because people sort of trust our opinion, or they tried it, and they knew that it would work, and therefore and you can tell by the comments that everybody says it's worth going up to an Expert just on all the things that you get with it alone. Now, what I say about this sled is it's kind of like getting two sleds in one. I ride long sleds for sure. I ride 175, 165, again because of the deep snow. Where I'm going sled skiing, doubling two people up to the top makes a huge difference. However, if it made a difference to what I like to do, which is carving through deep pow, boondock, and all that sort of stuff, I wouldn't get a longer sled, but it makes no difference. In fact, it always helps me in any of those situations, whether it's deep or not so deep. Why I say this is like getting two sleds is one of the biggest factors is the limiter strap adjust. Now, this is really something you can't do on any other machine. You can adjust it, but you have to get under the machine, like in the past with ours, and adjust it with the 10 mil bolts. And of course, if you're in the backcountry, let's face it, that's not something that you're probably going to do. But now you can have a sled that in the long position in a 165, say, the thing is just so nimble and rips around and really almost rides like a 154. Those people who are riding like a 154, they're loving it because they're able to do just everything easier because it turns so quickly on a dime. However, one of the drawbacks if you were to just get that size is that you're kind of limited in a 154. Let's face it, it's a great sled. I love riding them, but when it gets super deep, they're stuck everywhere. And after you ride for a long time, you really want to get into those zones where no one's getting, or you get in there first. And so one of the great things is you can just shorten up the limiter strap, and what that does is gives you more ski pressure. It'll keep the front end down, and now you can fly into those areas, open it back up, and then you've got your really playful sled. Also, if you love slicing and dicing through the trees, shortening up your limiter strap will give you more ski pressure, give you a better sort of side hill ability through that, and you'll be able to follow where you want to go, not just where you're taken through the forest. So really it's like creating two different snowmobiles you get in one snowmobile, and that really is a huge difference, because you know where we live and throughout the world, remember these snowmobiles are made for everybody through North America and Russia and Japan and all these places. They have to have a general consensus. You can make a sled your very own and make it better and clutch it better for your area, but you have to be careful when you read that online, because unless you have the same snow in the same area, it's not the same, and it's not going to work the same, and in fact it could work way worse for you in those conditions. So yes, you can find little things and a track that will work better in certain conditions, but it's only in that condition, doesn't mean that it's going to work in overall. So when Ski-Doo the engineers design these things, they have to work well in every condition, and then you can make it more specific if you want, as as you're riding is better and better, you have more specific things that you want. So that is one of the best things ever that we've now had, is that limiter strap adjust, and you can change it as well to play with it to see what you like. It changes it by 2 holes, so it makes a significant difference. I'll talk a little bit more on that when we get into the turbo. but everything from the lower seat height, which makes it easier to kick over. You'll notice I don't have a seat bag back here. I never run one of those because I'm a small guy, but even tall guys, I guarantee when you put something back here, and then if you run it now, take it off for 2 days, ride, and then put it back on, you will hit your foot every time. And so I prefer to keep all my stuff in a tunnel bag at the back here and keep everything nice and clean, and that makes a huge difference for moving over around the sled. We'll talk a little bit about the handlebars as well. This is also another huge gain for us is the narrow handlebars, and they make such a big difference for grip. Once you go back to the thicker ones, you just can't do it. It feels like you have no grip strength. So that's another huge change in the Expert that has been absolutely unbelievable. So that's a little bit about the Expert. I would say what I love about the sled, and if you're looking at getting a Summit X now from the SP in the short tunnel, man, is it worth it. You get the shorter tunnel, you get the handlebars, you don't get the limiter strap adjust, but that's something that you could add on it. And then compare yourself again with the pricing going up to an Expert, where you get all the different suspension, the limiter strap adjust. You know, you add all those costs up, and for the price jump, again, you're paying about a third for all those great features. So if you're thinking about getting an X model, then you're going to add a few things. Really look closely at the Expert, because you may get a lot of those things added and you're not paying as much for them, even though the cost does go up. We'll end on the suspension. You know, everybody always says, oh, the suspension isn't good enough or whatever. Again, that's a general term, because what I see and what I experience for me, and I'm not the best rider in the world by any stretch of the imagination. So when we look at, all you have to do is go online and watch someone like Carl Kuster, even though he runs Fox Shocks now, he can jump a sled 80 to 100 feet on regular suspension. It's all about how you land. So suspension is really helpful, but if you make a mistake, it's even more helpful to someone like me who might make that mistake. And when you're as precise as Carl, he can use SP suspension, go 80 feet and land, and you just go, wow. So it can be done, it is done, and so calling suspension crap to me is a big mistake. It's not. And this, the Expert suspension is a huge step up in the Kashima coating, and some people will say, wait a minute, it's just on the outside. I've had lots of those comments that Skidoo is pulling a fast one. Actually, what really matters is where the Kashima coating is on the inside, and where the moving part is, to allow better and easier, less friction. And that really does. It's also been stiffened up, and you will notice that when you get on an Expert, it feels like it's stiff. And but once you start riding in the backcountry, you literally can't go back. It's one of those things, as you move forward, you kind of forget the things are so good that you forget what they were like. A few things that I add on my sled before we go. Everybody knows I have the Toeholds. It's amazing how many people have not tried these. They just think and most of the stuff when we talk about it, you adapt to it. But if you try them, one of the great things is you don't even notice they're there until you need them, but they allow you to pull up with your legs, especially when you're downturning, and use the bigger muscles of your legs rather than hanging on with your handlebars. People don't realize, again, how much they're doing that. And I always go with the cheaper rigid ones, because they're cheaper and they work really well, and I find the adjustable ones have almost too much adjustability that you don't know where to start, and these just kind of give you the perfect balance of that. I also put on a straight line bumper this year. It's been harder to find the bumpers. This one's been awesome. It's the hide and go bumper, so it has a fire starter and all the stuff in the bumper, which is really cool, and it just strengthens up the back end, and it's really light. Actually, the problem with some of the bumpers I find is, yeah, they're really strong, but they get really heavy, and this one is one that ties everything together but keeps everything really light. And other than that, man, you can just ride this. This is one sled I had obviously a skid plate too, and ride it out of the box, and you don't really have to add that much stuff to. Get a bag and a fuel caddy, and you're off to the races and enjoying a great season. So one thing we're going to do now is we're going to move this out of the way and talk a little bit about the turbo.